Hi there, this is Ruth Rattan from Retrofit Pilates. I am the education coordinator here and a master instructor. And today we're going to talk about different positions of the pelvis and the spine. So one of the first things we need to know is what the bones of our pelvis are so that we have a better understanding of what we're talking about. So I've got this handy skeleton here and, let's just do that. And these are what we are talking about when we're talking about the hip bones. So they're sort of the bony landmark, a little lower than your belly button on either side. At the front, there's a bone, that's actually two bones that come together to create your pubic bone. So that's right at the front. And then on the back, we've got some bones at the base of the spine that are sort of fused together. They're about the size or the shape of your hand if you were pointing them down. And they, that sits between the two sides of your pelvis. And this is what we call your SI joint on either side. So it's just a little anatomy for you. On the very bottom, we've got your sits bones, or the bones that stick straight down. And those are the bones that you can feel if you're sitting upright and you kind of rock back and forth a little bit. So when we talk about neutral spine or neutral pelvis or neutral lumbo-pelvic position, we're talking about the relationship of these bones of your pelvis and your spine in relationship to each other and also in relationship to their surroundings. So today we're going to use the mat as an example. So if my spine and my pelvis are lying on the mat, ideally I want the hip bones and the pubic bone to be on the same plane. So if I were to take a plate, I could balance that plate right on top of it. In theory, that's going to put the spine in a little bit of a curve away from the mat, and that curve is what we call the neutral curve of the spine. If I were to tip my pelvis or tuck my tail under and sort of tip the pubic bone higher than the hip bones, then my low back is going to lengthen out into the mat, and it should feel like my spine is making contact with the mat all the way along. If I were to tip the other way and send my pubic bone lower than my hip bones, it's going to arch my spine away from the mat. And that's what we call a curve away, or maybe we might call it extension of the low back. So neutral is where these bones are lining up and they're parallel to the floor in this position, and they're creating an arc, a small arc in the low back area. To tip and tuck your tail under is going to put the pubic bone higher and the hip bones lower, and it's going to create a lengthening of that spine and possibly bring it right into contact with the mat. We call this position in Pilates an imprint. So that's your imprint. And then if we were to tip the other way, pubic bone lower, hip bones higher, that's giving us extension, and that's when we're getting a bigger curve away or an arch away from the mat. So those are your three basic positions that we typically use in Pilates. And they all have their specific purposes for when we use them. And sometimes your instructor will make a choice for you, and other times, based on comfort, you can make a choice for yourself as to what feels most comfortable for your body. So that's just a little bit about the bones of your pelvis and your spine, neutral, imprint, and extension. Thanks for watching.